Another mystery buried deep in the hills of eastern Washington. KOMO 4's Denise Whitaker heads east in search of the hole.
For decades, a single story lingered at the edges of reality and rumor, whispered late at night, shared in the shadows of obscure forums, and carried on the airwaves of late-night radio shows. It spoke of a hole, not ordinary, not merely deep, but bottomless. A chasm in the rural wilderness of Washington so profound that no line, no rope, no instrument could ever reach its end. This was Mel's Hole, a place that defied logic, that swallowed everything and seemed to exist just beyond the reach of human understanding. For some, it was nothing more than a local legend, a ghost story told by neighbors to unsettle curious hikers. But for others, it represented a mystery that hinted at something far older, far stranger than the land itself, something alive, perhaps even conscious. Over time, Mel's Hole became more than a rumor. It became a question, a riddle, posed to the limits of science, reason, and imagination. Until now, no one had truly seen what lay within its depths. Cameras failed, instruments malfunctioned, and those who attempted to approach often returned with stories that strained credibility. And yet, in early 2024, the story took an unprecedented turn. The most advanced technology ever devised was brought to bear, not just to peer into the darkness, but to map it in ways no human eye could perceive. AI, trained to detect anomalies invisible to the naked eye, scanned every inch of the hole, building a 3D reconstruction of a void that had, until this moment, existed only in speculation. What it revealed was astonishing, a structure so precise, so unnatural, that it challenged everything we thought we knew about the earth beneath our feet. Perfectly symmetrical walls, rings embedded at exact intervals, chambers hidden along its vertical descent, and a faint energy signature, warm and constant, as though the pit itself were alive. The implications are staggering. Could this be proof of hidden government secrets, buried for decades? Or is Mel's Hole a remnant of something far older, something alive, something watching? Tonight we will descend into that darkness. We will explore Mel's Hole through the eyes of AI and reveal the mysteries that have eluded humanity for more than 20 years. What you are about to see may change your understanding of reality itself. Visuals fade to black as subtle, suspenseful music rises, hinting at the descent to come. The legend of Mel's Hole begins not with a discovery, but with a phone call. One of those moments that seem almost accidental, yet change the course of a story forever. It was 1997 when Mel Waters, a seemingly ordinary man living on a quiet rural property in Washington state, reached out to Coast AM, a late-night radio program famous for giving a platform to the bizarre and unexplained. What he described that night would ripple through the underground networks of paranormal enthusiasts, conspiracy theorists, and skeptics alike. Mel's voice carried no grandeur, no dramatics. He didn't speak like a man making sensational claims. Instead, he sounded like a neighbor describing a minor inconvenience, a pothole in his driveway, almost casual in tone. Yet the story he told was anything but ordinary. On his property, he claimed, there existed a hole, not deep in the conventional sense, but infinite, bottomless. He had lowered a fishing line, weighted with lead, spool after spool, descending, mile after mile. 15 miles, 20 miles, and still nothing. No resistance, no change in temperature, no echo, just an endless void stretching into blackness. The peculiarities didn't end there. Animals sensed the anomaly before humans could. Dogs would growl and retreat at its edge. Birds refused to fly over it, circling at a safe distance. Residents reported dumping old refrigerators, tires, even animal carcasses into the pit, yet nothing ever returned a sound. No splash, no impact, just silence. The hole seemed to consume reality itself. Local folklore seemed to corroborate his claims. Long before Mel bought the land, Native American stories spoke of a place not meant for human eyes. A cursed doorway, they said, leading to something ancient and unknowable. Not haunted by spirits, but forbidden. A threshold to a realm, older than the hills themselves. Science, predictably, dismissed the claims immediately. A vertical shaft of that depth should collapse under its own weight. Geological principles, they argued, make such structures impossible. Even the Soviet Kola super-deep borehole, the deepest, man-made hole in history, barely reached 7.6 miles after decades of drilling and billions of dollars in investment. And yet here was Mel, claiming to have descended twice that distance with nothing but a pulley and a fishing line. As with most legends, the story didn't stop at impossibility. Strange occurrences soon began to surround the hole. Shortly after his radio interview, Mel reported mysterious men in black appearing on his property, their intentions unclear. Access to the area was suddenly restricted, citing a nearby plane crash as justification, though no crash had been reported publicly. Offers of cash were made to him. Incentives to leave the country, coupled with veiled threats warning him not to speak further. And then, Mel vanished. The world he had described seemed to disappear with him, leaving behind only rumors and unanswered questions. Over the years, the legend persisted in the shadows. Satellite images of the area were inexplicably blurred. Amateur explorers, drawn by curiosity, reported their GPS devices malfunctioning when they approached the rumored coordinates. Those who pushed too hard faced digital obstacles, erased research, locked accounts, strange phone calls. The whole was no longer just a geological curiosity. It had become a symbol, a story of mystery, secrecy, and the limits of human understanding. It had evolved into a challenge to science and society alike, a question no one dared fully answer, yet few could ignore. By the late 2000s and into the 2010s, the fascination with Mel's Hole had spread far beyond local lore. It had become a part of online mythologies, conspiracy forums, and urban legends. To some, it was proof of hidden government projects, secret research, or portals to dimensions unknown. To others, it was a natural anomaly, a geological mystery awaiting explanation. Yet one thing united all those who studied it. The truth, whatever it was, had been buried beneath layers of silence, secrecy, and fear. The legend had waited decades for someone to see it clearly. Until now, all attempts had been thwarted by nature, circumstance, or unknown interference. But the story of Mel's Hole was about to enter a new chapter, one where the mysterious, the impossible, and the unexplored would finally be examined with the most advanced technology ever deployed. And when the veil was lifted, the results would challenge every assumption about this bottomless void, and perhaps about reality itself. The story of Mel's Hole might have remained a curious legend, confined to late-night radio and fringe internet forums, if not for the sudden and inexplicable interference from forces beyond local comprehension. Soon after Mel Waters shared his account, a series of events unfolded that transformed a mere geological oddity into a matter of secrecy, suspicion, and fear. Mel claimed that men dressed in black began appearing on his property almost immediately. They did not introduce themselves, did not explain their purpose, and moved with an unnerving precision. Their presence was subtle, yet authoritative, a clear message that his curiosity had not gone unnoticed. When he attempted to approach the pit, access to his land was suddenly restricted under the pretext of a nearby plane crash, though no such incident had been publicly recorded. The implication was unmistakable. Mel was being watched, monitored, and ultimately warned to stop. The interference did not end with physical intimidation. Mel was reportedly offered substantial sums of money to leave the country. Offers made with the cold undertone of threat. He was cautioned against speaking publicly about the hole, and when he persisted, he vanished from the public eye. Whether he left voluntarily or was removed under duress remains unknown, but his disappearance only deepened the mystery, lending credibility to whispers of shadowy oversight. Satellite imagery of the region, once available to the public, began to blur inexplicably. Coordinates previously charted in amateur explorations became unreliable. GPS devices failed near the rumored location of the hole. Amateur investigators who dared to approach the area described sudden equipment malfunctions, strange phone calls warning them to desist, and, in at least one documented instance, a complete loss of research data overnight. It became evident that those determined to uncover the truth were being systematically thwarted, and that some entity, human or otherwise, wanted the hole kept hidden. The phenomenon took on a life of its own within online conspiracy circles. Mel's Hole was no longer just a story about a bottomless shaft. It had evolved into a symbol. To some, it represented proof of secret government programs, experiments, conducted far from the eyes of the public. To others, it hinted at something older, something more profound and dangerous than human intervention could explain. Scholars, investigators, and enthusiasts alike agreed on one point. The truth was buried beneath layers of deception, silence, and apparent danger. By the early 2000s, the tale had permeated deeper into the consciousness of those who study the unexplained. It was cited not only in folklore discussions, but also in reports on anomalous geological features and top-secret operations. The pattern was clear. Mel's Hole was more than a natural curiosity. Whether it was a portal, a hidden structure, or a site of unknown activity, someone somewhere had a vested interest in keeping it from view. And that interest, it seemed, was willing to exert extraordinary measures to remain unseen. This phase of the legend set the stage for a modern investigation that would attempt what previous generations could not, to see the hole in its entirety without interference and to understand it through the most advanced technological tools ever created. It was no longer a story of rumor or legend alone. It had become a matter of discovery and perhaps of revelation. The question now was no longer just whether Mel's Hole existed, but why it had been hidden, and by whom. By the 2010s, fascination with Mel's Hole had transformed from fringe curiosity into a mission to uncover the truth behind the bottomless void. No longer would investigators rely on flashlights, shaky camcorders, or guesswork. Instead, a new breed of explorers emerged: scientists, engineers, former military techs, and underground mapping specialists equipped with technology capable of seeing what no human eye could ever detect. In early 2024, a privately funded expedition assembled in secret. The team's goal was simple in theory: map Mel's Hole in its entirety. In practice, it was unprecedented. The tools they brought were not typical of ordinary exploration. These were instruments designed for high-security infrastructure inspections, deep cave rescue operations, and military reconnaissance. Yet, at the center of this mission was something even more extraordinary: an AI scanning system engineered to interpret the invisible, to detect patterns and anomalies invisible to humans, and to create a 3D reconstruction of the shaft with millimeter-level accuracy. The operation began with meticulous planning. A secure perimeter was established around the rumored site. Every device had redundant power supplies and shielded data storage designed to survive electrical surges and interference. The rig constructed at the edge of the opening resembled a hybrid between a deep-sea winch and a satellite launch platform, complete with stabilization arms and a central cylinder from which the drone would descend. Attached to the rig was the scanning drone, a cylindrical machine bristling with sensors, coated in matte black to reduce glare and avoid detection. Its descent into the darkness marked humanity's first opportunity to see the legendary pit in its entirety. As it lowered into the void, the drone's lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls that were far smoother and more precise than any natural formation should be. The AI immediately flagged the anomaly. Natural shafts, volcanic tubes, and vertical geological formations are irregular, full of fractures, fissures, and scars left by shifting earth. This, however, was flawless, symmetrical, polished, intentional. The AI layered multiple types of data in real time. Photogrammetry mapped every curve and surface of the walls. Thermal sensors scanned for heat sources. Electromagnetic sensors detected distortions in the surrounding field. At just 200 feet, the AI noticed a remarkable absence of microfractures. In geology, stress lines are inevitable. Here, none existed. Material density scans returned results that defied local basalt sandstone compositions. Parts of the shaft even absorbed the signals entirely, as if the walls themselves were resisting observation. Deeper still, at approximately 340 feet, LiDAR scans revealed thin, perfectly spaced horizontal ridges wrapping around the circumference of the shaft. Not mineral deposits, not roots, structural reinforcements. The AI tagged them as anomalies. At 500 feet, the electromagnetic readings spiked violently, destabilizing the drone's compass before stabilizing again. The AI logged this as a localized EM distortion, probable active source. In simpler terms, something down there was generating energy, something alive or operational. As the descent continued, the AI's composite 3D model began revealing patterns impossible to explain as natural. Perfectly parallel walls, reinforcement rings spaced at regular intervals, horizontal openings branching into symmetrical side chambers. Each discovery contradicted previous assumptions. This was no ordinary geological formation. The deeper the drone went, the more the hole resembled a constructed shaft, precise, deliberate, and seemingly designed to descend indefinitely. The team paused periodically, allowing the AI to process overlapping data layers. And then came the most unsettling revelation, a faint heat signature emanating from one of the side chambers. Not residual geological warmth, but consistent, steady, as if powered by some unknown mechanism. This discovery suggested the shaft was not abandoned or dormant. It was active. Something within it existed, something beyond human understanding, operating in darkness for reasons unknown. The modern investigation had succeeded in one thing at least. It had removed the veil of speculation. Mel's Hole was no longer a story told on late-night radio or internet forums. It was a structure, real and tangible, defying explanation, and now mapped in unparalleled detail by an intelligence capable of perceiving what humans could not. The legend had finally met the reality, and the reality was far stranger than the legend itself. As the AI's descent progressed deeper into Mel's Hole, the familiar boundaries of natural explanation began to blur. The vertical shaft, once imagined as a geological oddity, now revealed a structure that defied logic. Every foot of its depth presented anomalies that left the expedition team both awed and unsettled. At approximately 340 feet, the drone's LiDAR scans revealed thin, perfectly spaced horizontal ridges encircling the shaft, so symmetrical, so precise, that no natural process could account for them. The AI immediately flagged them as structural. Reinforcement indicators, something expected in engineered tunnels, but not in a vertical shaft plummeting miles underground. These rings continued at consistent intervals, a pattern so regular it suggested deliberate construction, a level of precision far beyond human capability in a location so remote and hidden. Further descent only heightened the mystery. At 500 feet, the electromagnetic sensors spiked unexpectedly. The drone's compass spun wildly before regaining stability. The AI identified this as a localized EM distortion, probable active source. In layman's terms, something within the depths was radiating energy, a phenomenon that could not be explained by ordinary geological processes. Whatever lay below was not inert. It was alive, or at least operational, and it interacted with its environment in ways that modern science could barely comprehend. By 600 feet, the AI had processed a preliminary 3D reconstruction of the shaft. The model revealed walls perfectly, parallel from the first inch to the last scannable depth. Every 50 feet, thin ledges, smooth and uniform, jutted from the walls, forming a pattern reminiscent of an inverted ladder or steps. Side chambers emerged at precise intervals, horizontal openings carved into the shaft with a symmetry no natural formation could produce. Each discovery reinforced the growing conviction that Mel's hole was not merely a hole. It was a deliberate structure, built for a purpose still unknown. Material density scans added another layer of incomprehensibility. The walls, while appearing stone-like, were denser than the local basalt and sandstone compositions. In certain sections, the scanning signals were absorbed entirely, leaving blank spaces in the AI's data. The shaft resisted observation itself, as if designed to conceal the full extent of its contents. This resistance, coupled with the structural symmetry and the EM anomalies, suggested an intelligence, or at least an intentional design, far beyond natural occurrence. Then came the most startling discovery: a faint, steady heat signature emerging from one of the side chambers. Not residual geothermal energy, not the result of trapped air or chemical reactions. This warmth was consistent, localized, and persistent, as if powered by a source operating in real time. The AI overlaid the thermal data onto the 3D model, revealing subtle gradients indicating activity. The heat was alive, and it was unmistakably not a remnant of the natural environment. Something was functioning in the depths of Mel's hole. The implications were staggering. Mel's hole had long been dismissed as myth or legend, a curiosity for late-night storytellers. Now, the evidence suggested it was far more than that, a constructed passage extending miles underground, perfectly engineered, radiating energy, and possibly inhabited by something unknown. The AI's analysis made it clear. This was not a natural void. Nature alone could not create walls so precise, rings so regular, or side chambers so symmetrical. Whatever existed here was deliberate on a scale humans could scarcely comprehend. As the expedition team reviewed the AI's composite data, the sense of awe and unease deepened. This was a place designed to go deeper, to contain something, perhaps to protect, or perhaps to conceal. The patterns hinted at intelligence, the EM anomalies hinted at life or activity, and the heat signatures suggested a source operating with purpose. For the first time, humanity was not just observing Mel's hole, it was beginning to understand. It, and the understanding, was more terrifying, more wondrous, and more profound than anyone could have anticipated. After decades of whispers, rumors, and vanished investigators, Mel's hole has finally revealed itself, not as a simple geological anomaly, but as a structure beyond comprehension. What the AI unveiled challenges everything we believed about the Earth beneath our feet, and perhaps even about the boundaries of human understanding. Perfectly parallel walls, reinforcement rings spaced with impossible precision, symmetrical side chambers, electromagnetic anomalies, and persistent heat signatures all suggest design, purpose, and perhaps even intelligence. This was no natural pit. It was a passage, deliberate and engineered, stretching far beyond what humans have ever attempted to construct underground. And whatever resides within is active, unseen, and potentially aware. The legend of Mel's hole is no longer a story confined to late-night radio or online forums. It is a reality, a reminder that some places on Earth, and perhaps in the universe, are older, stranger, and far more complex than we can imagine. The hole, which swallowed trash, resisted measurement, and defied science, now stands as a testament to mysteries that humanity is only beginning to uncover. What lies deeper beyond the reach of drones and AI? Is it machinery, life, or something that has existed long before us, waiting quietly in the dark? The answers remain unknown, but the evidence is undeniable. Mel's Hole is not simply a hole. It is a doorway to the unknown, a symbol of the boundaries between legend and reality, and a challenge to the human mind. For decades, it was hidden, obscured, and dismissed. Now, seen through the lens of advanced technology, it demands acknowledgement. The truth of Mel's Hole is more profound than anyone imagined, and the mysteries it contains are far from solved. Whatever waits in its depths continues to elude us, silent and watchful, hidden in darkness, waiting. Mel's Hole is not just a story of legend. It is a challenge to the very laws of physics. To understand why, we must first consider the constraints of geology. Vertical shafts of extreme depth are inherently unstable. The pressure of the surrounding rock increases with depth, creating stress fractures that would collapse any natural, opening far sooner than the depths claimed by Mel Waters. A hole descending miles into the earth should have crumbled long before reaching its supposed bottom. For comparison, the Kola super-deep borehole, a feat of human engineering, drilled into the earth for more than 7.6 miles over decades. It required specialized drilling equipment, constant maintenance, and enormous financial resources. And even with this technological marvel, the borehole was prone to collapse, heat buildup, and equipment failure. Yet, according to Mel, a simple fishing line and pulley reached depths more than twice that without any signs of resistance or structural failure. The AI scans of 2024 revealed phenomena that made scientists question even the fundamentals of geology. The walls of the shaft were perfectly smooth, devoid of the microfractures, stress lines, and irregularities that occur naturally in deep rock formations. Density scans showed a material stronger than the surrounding basalt and sandstone, capable of withstanding immense pressures without deformation. In places, the AI's signals were absorbed entirely, as if the shaft resisted being measured. Such material behavior is unprecedented in nature. Equally puzzling were the structural features identified by the AI. The horizontal reinforcement rings, spaced at precise intervals, indicate a level of design sophistication far beyond accidental natural processes. Their uniformity, combined with the flawless vertical walls, suggests intentional construction, yet no tool marks, debris piles, or evidence of machinery were found. In other words, the shaft appears engineered, but by an unknown intelligence, using unknown methods. The laws of physics alone make the existence of a hole like this virtually impossible. Natural formations collapse, minerals shift, and heat and pressure distort structures over time. Yet Mel's Hole exists, an anomaly defying what geology, engineering, and human experience tell us is possible. It is both a marvel and a puzzle, a vertical void that should have long since collapsed, yet stands as a perfect passage into darkness. The implications are profound. Whether this structure is a natural anomaly, a remnant of an unknown civilization, or an artificial creation beyond current human technology, it forces a re-evaluation of what is possible beneath the Earth's surface. Physics cannot fully explain it, and science, for the first time, must confront something that seems to exist outside conventional understanding. While scientists debated the impossibility of Mel's Hole, the people living near the area had long observed anomalies that defied explanation. Their experiences, passed down through whispers, interviews, and folklore, offer a glimpse into a reality that blends the mundane with the extraordinary. Farmers and neighbors reported that dogs would growl and retreat when approaching a particular clearing in the woods. These were animals familiar with their surroundings, yet something about the area triggered instinctual fear. Birds, too, seemed to sense the anomaly. They avoided flying over the pit, circling instead at safe distances, as if aware of a hidden danger below. Local residents described an uncanny silence near the clearing, a vacuum where natural sounds diminished, and even the wind seemed to behave differently. Long before Mel Waters arrived, Native American legends spoke of a place not meant for people. Elders recounted that it was a doorway to something older than the land itself. Not haunted by spirits, they said, but forbidden. Those who dared approach were warned. The place was alive, ancient, and not bound by human understanding. These stories framed the hole not as a mere curiosity, but as a threshold, a boundary between the world of the known and the unknown. Eyewitness accounts from Mel's own time corroborated some of these tales. Neighbors reported strange lights at the clearing at night, fleeting shadows moving without source, and an inexplicable chill that seemed to emanate from the ground itself. One local even claimed to have thrown a rock into the hole, only to hear no sound of impact. Not a splash, not a thud, nothing. The object vanished entirely, reinforcing the belief that the hole was no ordinary void. These first-hand experiences, combined with Mel's detailed accounts, created a pattern of strange occurrences that could not easily be dismissed. Even skeptics noted the consistency in reports. Animals reacted instinctively, objects disappeared, and the area exhibited behavior that contradicted known physical laws. Over time, these stories evolved into a communal awareness of something deeply unusual buried in the woods of Washington state. The significance of these accounts is more than anecdotal. They suggest that whatever exists within Mel's hole interacts with the environment in ways perceptible to living beings. The avoidance behavior of animals, the unusual atmospheric effects, and the inexplicable disappearance of objects all point toward a phenomenon that is not only physically extraordinary, but potentially sentient or responsive. Eyewitness reports and local lore, when combined with modern AI scans, paint a chilling picture. A shaft that is more than a hole, a presence that observes, and a structure that defies the natural world. The humans and animals who lived nearby may have sensed it long before science could measure it, offering a warning, a glimpse, and a puzzle for those who dared to investigate further.